Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Welcome back, Congresswoman.
Thank you so much.
So, obviously, Mayorkas is doing a bad job. Obviously, there are massive problems at the southern border. The numbers don't lie, even if the administration wants to. But even if you get him out of the job, you still have a structural failure and systems that need to be reformed. So shouldn't Kevin McCarthy be working on legislation instead?
Well, I don't know why the two are mutually exclusive. I think Congress has the right and the ability and the power to impeach Secretary Mayorkas, but at the same time, we should be focusing on policies that'll improve conditions at the southern border. And as you rightly point out, we've had over 4 million people illegally cross our southern border over the last year and a half or so, or since Biden was sworn into office. And so one of the things that I'm excited about Republicans working on is supply chain policy. Supply chain policy that would give jobs and promote jobs to the south of the United States and Mexico, Central and South America, incentivize companies to get out of China and manufacture and go to the south of our border. Because when countries can prosper, when there's greater trade and their jobs and the economy are improved by that trade and manufacturing south of our border through the supply chain process, then we're going to have fewer illegal immigrants. And so that's one of the ways that Republicans can address via policy the immigration issue we have at the southern border today.
Well, the problem that
or at least when we're in the majority next year.
The problem that we have, though, is the trade that's propping up the countries south of us is the illegal drug trade, because demand in this country, it hasn't changed at all. So, if I'm a major corporation, if I'm the Gap, sure, it might be nice to open a factory with cheaper labor in a place like Honduras, but I worry that my employees, if I try and get people to move there, they're going to be unsafe because you've got narco-terrorists who are running these various countries. So how do you address that?
Today, the United States is funding the very cartels you're talking about. It's a $64 billion industry, $30 billion of that dedicated to drug trafficking, $34 billion more than the drug trafficking. The cartels are making more money on human trafficking at our southern border. So that has to stop. But if we can address the supply chain and get manufacturers to South America and Central America, that is at least addresses part of the problem. And many of the people that are coming here, they just want to work and they want to go back home. They want to work and they want to send money back to their families. And when there's greater peace and prosperity because of more prosperous economies to the south of our border, then there's going to be less illegal trafficking of drugs and people and sex trafficking. And I have to tell you, about 2 weeks ago, in the state of South Carolina on one of our interstates, there was enough fentanyl that was discovered on the side of the road on the interstate by our local law enforcement to kill 1 million people. This is an issue not just in the state of South Carolina, but every state across the country is now a border state. And it's got to be addressed one way or the other. But incentivizing manufacturing to at least go south and out of China is one step in the right direction.
All right. Now, speaking of the drug war, Congresswoman, while I've got you here, what do you think about President Biden today pardoning thousands of federal marijuana offenders?
Well, I want to give credit where credit is due. I don't always agree with the Biden administration. I've been very vocal about that. But this is a step in the right direction. The president wants to pardon people for very simple possession of nonviolent cannabis offenders at the federal level. And he wants to encourage our governors across the country to do the same. And I think that's a great first step. I have a bill that we've talked about, Kennedy, called the States Reform Act. And that is one piece of the puzzle to addressing cannabis in this country, but there's more to do. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry that needs regulation, that needs to be have some guardrails to ensure that we're not selling marijuana or cannabis to kids and our youth, and to ensure that also those that need it for medical reasons, like our veterans that have PTSD when they come home from war, can get medical care that isn't going to get them addicted to very dangerous opioids. And we have an opioid crisis in our country. And so I applaud the president. I'm going to give credit where credit is due and agree with him on this position today.
Yeah, and I hope they take up your legislation, because of the bills that have been presented in Congress, yours is the superior one. Congresswoman Mace, thank you very much for being here.
Can't disagree there. Thank you.
Yeah.